Good morning and welcome to the first, or this special council meeting, which is the first one for January 2023. Could I begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land, the Wadandi people of the Noongar Nation, pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Now, the meeting is being live streamed. I'm totally aware of the challenge of pulling together a meeting at short notice with bushfires in all directions, but this is a fairly short meeting to provide the opportunity to formally appoint me as a member of the Audit and Risk Committee. Members of the public, and I have to do my normal little bit, are reminded that, that no visual or audio recording of this meeting by any other means is allowed without the permission of the chairperson. And I think I will draw attention to the fact we do have one person in the public gallery, so I don't think I need to talk about loud noises and other recordings being picked up on the recording, but be aware of that. For the purpose of the record, members present, myself as Commissioner, that's Gail McGowan, the staff, Kim Delzadelli, who is the Acting Chief Executive Officer, and Lauren Clifford, who is the Acting Manager Executive Services. We do have Shane Circum in the public gallery, and so welcome, Shane. We have no apologies, because I think the only apologies at this stage are probably me, and obviously Kim is acting as Chief Executive at the moment anyway. I do need to, I do wish to make just a short announcement, because it is a single issue special council meeting for the purposes, as I said, of formalising my appointment as a member of the Audit and Risk Committee, and we'll deal with that under item 6.1. But because it's also the first formal meeting I'm presiding over in my capacity as Commissioner, I'll take the opportunity to make a very brief statement. My appointment as Commissioner was made under the Local Government Act, specifically sections 2.37 and 2.38. And as the Commissioner, I hold all the powers and functions of the Council, and I'm regarded as being the Council in its entirety. But what this means in practical effect, that from time to time, we will have to, when we've got various regulatory and legislative requirements that do things like prescribe the composition of committees and working groups, etc., we'll need to take a practical approach. So in those sorts of circumstances, I'm going to be guided by the CEO and the executive here, the West Australian Local Government Association, or WELGA as it's known, and by the Department of Local Government, Sport and Cultural Industries, people with expertise in the area. As I've indicated in updates that I've been publishing on the Shire website, I do invite you to make contact with me should there be any matters you wish to discuss, and thank those people I've met with to date. Declaration of interest, I think we have divisions, item 4 now. Declaration of interest, subdivision 1 of the Local Government Act, and just a reminder, care should be taken by all councillors, and all councillors in that reference means me, to ensure that a financial impartiality interest is declared and that I refrain from voting on any matter which is considered to come within the ambit of the Act. To date, I'm not aware of anything that would cause me to have a conflict of interest, and we'll cross that bridge in the next few months if indeed we come to it. Reports of officers is item 6, and the substantive matter for today is the... yes. Oh, Shane, I didn't do that deliberately, Shane. I said I was off to a fine start. Item 5, public question time. May I invite public questions? Shane. If I'm happy for you to stay there if you wish, and you press the button, and if you just announce your name, yes, and I think the standing orders currently require you to put your address in as well.
Shane Sercombe. Give the meetings live streamed. I'll just say I'm from Donnybrook and can provide an address afterwards. Thanks, Commissioner, for the opportunity, and I'd just like to firstly apologise for my state of dress. I was evacuated last night and spent the night in the transit park. And also, while I'm on the matter, I'd just like to thank all the fireys, Shire staff and DFS personnel and other emergency services for all their efforts. It looked like it was a pretty good result last night, and hopefully favourable weather today helps things along. And I'd also like just to note that me sat here is no indication of any future desires to be a councillor again.
I said I was taking a pragmatic approach.
Understand a very limited window for asking questions at today's meeting, but we have had issues in the past where special meetings or audit committee meetings have been called with very limited public notice, and I realise today's meeting is largely a administrative type process, but could you just give some insight into the very short time frame of public notice and whether this short notice period is a one-off, and your intentions in the future for providing good public notice?
Very happy to. In fact, I probably couldn't have asked for a better opening question, Shane. And look, I'm going to mention the fireys as I conclude today, but thoughts are with you and those others that did evacuate as well. Absolutely not my intention to have too many special council meetings, and certainly not at short notice like this. Reality is there's a sequence of events which will become apparent when we deal with item 6.1, which is the need to appoint me. Is in order to have an audit and risk committee meeting, I need to formally appoint me as a member. That's required under the Act, and we confirmed that with the department yesterday. So, because we also have now had the Office of the Auditor General finalise their statement and give their opinion, which in common terms was a clear opinion or an unqualified opinion. We're now in a position where we can progress some of those things. So I met with the Chair of the Audit and Risk Committee yesterday and talked about my desire to have a meeting of Audit and Risk hopefully next week when I'm down. If that happens, is able to happen, my intention would be to potentially have a special council meeting, probably the 25th, and I'll talk about that when we conclude the meeting. And in that sense, again, timing won't be ideal, but my worry is that leaving 3 months between the November meeting and when we would ordinarily meet in February is a bit too long for some of the things that need to be progressed, including our regulatory reporting requirements. So I do not intend to operate with special council meetings unless they're absolutely essential. If they are essential, I will be giving a maximum notice, and this would be a real outlier, this one, but it is a very administrative, bureaucratic, almost, silliness in one sense, but it has to happen.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and understand the circumstances, and just, it's always, given previous experiences, it's, just a concern whether, given the
concerns noted.
Yes, thank you. and I'd just like to follow up and ask, this might be out of the scope of acceptable questions. The Audit Committee, under the Council policy, is required to meet quarterly and hasn't met since the 3rd of March last year. I'd just like to ask the reasons for that delay, and I appreciate you've commented that you intend to have quarterly meetings in the future, but yeah, my question is, a reason as to why there has been a 10-month delay.
Thanks, Shane. I don't know, but generally speaking, my observation would be most meeting sort of frequencies under policy are literally that, just policy, and if there's not a requirement to have a meeting, there isn't a meeting. I like, to have fairly regular meetings, but equally I'm not going to convene meetings if there's no substantive business to discuss either, because that wastes people's time. But I'm not looking backwards, so my intention would be to utilise the Audit and Risk Committee meeting. We have, good people appointed. It will be a committee of 3 because, and I'll explain that as we get on to the next item, but I think my focus is on going forward, so thanks.
Yeah, appreciate that. And just to clarify that there was several outstanding reports stemming from the Audit Committee meeting in February last year that have still not been addressed, as well as several questions sent to the Audit Committee in May last year, followed up in August, and then followed up again in November, that haven't been answered, and several other statutory requirements for the Audit Committee to meet, including the interim audit report. So there appears to be plenty of potential agenda items for the Audit Committee, and I'd ask if you could take on notice that the reason for that delay prior to your appointment, that would be much appreciated.
Thanks. I'll note that rather than give you a substantive response, but I'll have a look at the issues, and but again, I'll reiterate that a lot of my focus is going forward, but I think we spoke before the meeting about you possibly giving me a bit of an update on those questions, and I'll see what I can do. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, so thank you. Now I can move on to item 6. Sorry about that, Kim. And that is really, again, the purpose of today's meeting, and the recommendation is that Council appoint Commissioner Gail McGowan as a member of the Audit and Risk Management Committee until the ordinary local government election in October 2023, or such time that councillors are appointed. And effectively, the committee normally comprises of 2 independent committee members that are non-councillors, and 3 council members. Obviously, with all the council members positions being vacant, it makes it difficult. The Act also does say that the majority of membership should rest with the council. Obviously, that won't be the case in this instance. We have had an assurance from the departmental advisors that my appointment satisfies the provisions of the legislation. And again, my intention is to take a pretty practical approach. I'll very much value the input of the other 2 members of the Audit and Risk Committee. I'm quite comfortable with having a committee of 3, and any decisions would obviously, or any recommendations would obviously then come to the council, of which I am it. So there is a mechanism in place to satisfy the legislation. I won't go through the rest of the papers. But I will, for the record, identify that we did actually, as I said, seek formal advice from the department around making sure we satisfied the requirements of the legislation, and the following response has been provided. In accordance with section 2.38 bracket 2 of the Local Government Act, the Commissioner is regarded as being the council. Our position is that the Commissioner is the council when sitting on the Audit Committee and represents the entire council. On this basis, providing that the Commissioner is a member of the Audit Committee, the entire Council is being represented, and therefore the provisions of the Local Government Act and the terms of reference are satisfied. So that the conclusion we draw from that is that I be appointed to the committee for it to function, and so on that instance I will. I don't think we actually move, and this is all new ground for us as well. But Kim, over to you.
Yes, Madam Commissioner. Look, it is new ground for us. For the record, I think simply you need to cast a vote, either to carry or not to carry the recommendation.
Thank you. And in this case, I will cast my first vote, and that is to carry the recommendation that I be appointed. And I will sort of be doing a bit of begging for forgiveness of some of these process issues where we're just going to have to be a bit sensible about how we do it, because I'm certainly not going to go through a whole lot of unnecessary sort of verbiage if I don't have to. So thank you. We consider that carried. Now, I've lost my place on the agenda. Item 7 is meeting closed to the public matters. There are none, so we will continue on. And then in terms of item 8 of the closure of the meeting, I have written myself a few extra notes just to remind myself of things that I wanted to say. Certainly while at this stage the next scheduled meeting will be an ordinary council meeting to be held on Wednesday 22nd of February 2023, commencing at 5 p.m. in this chamber, the Shire of Donnybrook Balingup Council chamber. As I indicated in response to some of Shane's questions, I have asked for some preliminary planning to be put in place for a further special meeting of council, which will be scheduled for the late afternoon on 25th of January, and we'll confirm that over the coming days. Again, recognise that's the day before a public holiday, but it is one of those times that we just have to try and fit in. It won't be my normal means of operation. But why I've asked for the meeting would be to enable matters that would ordinarily have been progressed at the December meeting to be progressed, so we're not waiting 3 months. And the matters that are under contemplation include confirmation of the minutes of the previous meetings of the former council that weren't formalised, and then the outcome of a tender for road and path upgrades on Southampton Road, which was request for tender 01/2223, and other routine matters that I don't anticipate to be controversial. Ideally, I would like to deal with the financial statements, so I would invite those questions to come forward quickly, Shane, if there's anything there. But again, on my viewing, I don't see anything untoward. They would have ordinarily been presented to the December meeting, and as I say, I'm of the view that holding these over until February is unnecessary. Also indicated that I do hope to convene a meeting of the Audit and Risk Committee next week in order to present the audited accounts now that the Office of the Auditor General has issued its opinion, and as I said, that is an unqualified opinion. It's an unqualified opinion. And as I say, if we're able to have that meeting, it's possible we'll also deal with those statements at that special meeting in January, simply because that then enables the council to meet its reporting obligations under the Local Government Act as far as that. But where we started, I think, with Shane's very appropriate comments about the fireys, can I acknowledge the efforts of everyone across the district who have been assisting with the fires that have occurred. We'll note that for anyone driving past VC Mitchell Park, DFES has established a mini city on which I've yet to see. That's happened overnight in the early hours of this morning. Whilst the fires have been downgraded to a watch and act, there are so many little points of ignition because of the lightning strikes the other night. I think they're not taking any chances, so we thank them sincerely, and we absolutely thank the volunteers and others who have put their time and effort into protecting lives and property. And I think my observation of the last couple of weeks is that what you end up with are lots of ordinary citizens that sort of morph into superheroes over a period of time and come together for the good of the community. So I think that's something fairly amazing to witness, and I thank them, and our thoughts are with everyone who has been impacted in any way by the fires. There are a number of mechanisms in place, and the acting CEO and I will get further advice this morning, as I understand it, on some of the more formal incident management teams or incident support group meetings that will be convened over coming days. So a reminder to watch Emergency WA, so www.emergency.wa.gov.au for updates on the fires, and equally to keep an eye out for each other, and don't hesitate if you see something that requires reporting to report it as soon as you can. We have a long and hot summer ahead, so stay safe and stay vigilant. And with that, I'll close the meeting. So thank you.